So if you see that glass there, I'm right below the glass. There's a mixing board right there. I'll be there the whole time.
Especially for someone who feel like.
Yeah, we got 10 minutes, but we'll do the 25. We got one more minute. So you can talk amongst yourselves until then. Okay. Hello and welcome to this debate in the Schenectady Democratic mayoral primary. It's a special night tonight. We finally get to hear, after months of this, the campaign that's already been rolling. And we finally get to hear from the two candidates who are going to be vying in November and also later this month in the June 27th primary for this all-important Democratic line in the general election. I want to start by saying I'm Miles Reed. I'm the editor at the Gazette, and I'm going to be the moderator tonight. I also want to thank a big thank you to our co-sponsors for this event, SUNY Schenectady. Big thanks to Dr. Muno for making it happen, his colleague, Dr. Shabazz, for being a huge help and great partners. I don't know about everybody here, but whenever I come to the campus, every time I come, feels like everything looks better. There's so many improvements. Just coming into this building is so impressive these days. And if you haven't had a chance to visit the college, to go over to some of the new academic buildings, the music hall, et cetera, it's just a fantastic, just a gem in the community. So thank you again to SUNY Schenectady. I want to go over the rules for the debate very quickly. They're pretty simple. To start with, both of the candidates will have 90 seconds to make their opening statements. We've already decided who goes first and who goes last in a coin toss that we did before the debate got started. Once we jump into the questions, all the questions will come from the panel of journalists, and each of the candidates will have 60 seconds to respond to each question, and then there will be an opportunity for a 30-second rebuttal if the candidates wish. If there's any need for further conversation about a question, it's at the discretion of the moderator, and we'll play it by ear at that point, and I'll make it very clear to both of the candidates. At the end of all the questions, then the candidates will once again have 90 seconds to make their closing statements. The questions are going to come from our excellent panel of journalists we have tonight, and I want to introduce each of them before we get going. On the far left, we have Emma Quinn from CBS 6. Next in line, we have my Gazette columnist colleague, Andrew Waite. Next in line is Paul Nelson, the Times-Union. And finally, at the end, is Lucas Willard from WAMC. Thanks for being here, you guys. And finally, I want to introduce now the reason we're all here. Our two candidates. On my right is Schenectady City Council President Marion Porterfield. Welcome. And on the left is Mayor Gary McCarthy. Welcome. And finally, without further ado, we're going to turn to the questions now. We're going to start to the opening statements. And based on the coin toss that we did earlier, Madam President is going to give the first opening statement.
Thank you, Miles. Good evening, everyone. I want to thank the Gazette for sponsoring this and for the panelists to agreeing to be a part of this, and thank all of you, the audience, who came out tonight. As you've heard, my name is Marion Porterfield. I've been on the Schenectady City Council for 11 years, and I currently serve as the president. The reason I'm on the City Council is because about 12 years ago, I decided that public service is the area I wanted to be in. Why? Because I was hearing from the community that there was not enough involvement of the community, that people's voices weren't being heard. So I had the opportunity to run for office, and so I did. My upbringing with my mother, who was a very wonderful upbringing, taught me about community service, about volunteerism, about all the things that you need to do in order to make your community a better place. So that is something that I've done from the beginning and something I want to continue to do. Part of my plan as mayor would be for us to have a comprehensive plan, something that we have not had since 2008. A plan that gives us direction on what we should be doing and how we should be moving forward within the city. And a barometer to actually look at and see how well we've done. And part of that plan would be input from the residents of the city of Schenectady so that they have a voice in what happens in their city. So that we can create more development within the city, create more job opportunities within the city. And together, move up the tax base so that people can become homeowners.
Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you.
Now we turn to Mayor McCarthy.
Thank you for this opportunity to speak directly to the voters about the historic changes that have been taking place in Schenectady over the past 12 years while I've served as your mayor. The important changes are visible and concrete. New waterfront development bringing in $54 million to Schenectady taxpayers and over 1,000 new jobs at Rivers Casino alone. New housing, more jobs, new development downtown, and importantly, in our neighborhoods. Today, $250 million in historic investment in affordable housing is transforming our neighborhoods. Schenectady has undergone a renaissance during my 12 years as mayor. These dramatic investments have led to 6 property tax cuts, crime is down, Schenectady is safer, parks are being invested in and in every neighborhood. I'm proud of my efforts to negotiate 2 sales tax agreements resulting in over $5.3 million in increased revenue to the city. The city finance has stabilized since I took office and our bond rating has been upgraded and so has the outlook. As mayor, I've led the effort to establish a pro-environmental agenda for Schenectady to fight climate change. These changes did not just happen. Leadership and competence made it happen. They happened because of partnerships with community organizations and with county, state, and federal officials. They happened because of a renewed belief by business owners that our Schenectady residents that we need to continue the progress that we've begun.
Thank you,
and
Mr.
as your
Mayor.
mayor, I will guarantee that Schenectady
Mr.
keeps
Mayor.
moving forward.
So we move now to the questions, and the first question comes from Emma Quinn, CBS 6.
Hello, thank you. New York City has been sending asylum seekers to the city of Albany and other parts of upstate New York. Do you welcome these asylum seekers, and does the city have the resources to support these individuals and families?
The first question goes to Madam Speaker, or President.
Thank you. So in terms of whenever you want to bring more people into your city, you have to look at, do you currently have the resources in order to be able to house them, to clothe them, to feed them? Are you able to take care of the people that are currently in your community? So before making a decision whether we can take asylum seekers or not, we have to make sure that we would have the capacity to bring others into our community so that there's not continuing suffering for those who are coming and also for those who are currently in need of our assistance in our community.
Thank you.
We've continued to review the situation, working with partners at the county and also conversations with New York City and then at the state level. Schenectady does not have excess capacity in terms of housing homeless individuals. And today, a lot of people through county Department of Social Services are put in motels in really what are less than ideal temporary housing situations. So we shouldn't be afraid of immigration. The real problem is a lack of federal policy for immigration at a national level. It's creating chaos at our southern border. It's now coming across other communities, now infecting upstate New York. But at this point, we monitor it on really a daily basis, and again, our working with our county as the lead agency in terms of actually providing services for individuals who may come here.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Madam President, you have 30 seconds for rebuttal if you wish.
Well, I think the mayor and I both agreed that we would definitely have to look at what our resources are to make sure that we would be able to do the if at all. And as the mayor, it makes sense that he is working with the county and the city, and as any leader would do.
Thank you. Mr. Mayor, you have 30 seconds if you wish.
I think asked and answered.
Thank you. We'll move on to the next question. It's coming from Andrew Waite, the Daily Gazette, and the first question goes to Mayor McCarthy this time. So go ahead, Andrew.
There's been a fair amount of infighting on the council. You are both in positions of leadership on the council. Just wondering what your level of personal responsibility is for the infighting we've seen.
Well, I draw exception to your assumption that I'm not a member of the city council. Again, it's a separate legislative body. The dynamics within the council in the last couple of years are less than optimal. It makes it harder to do business within the community. It projects a poor image. Try and rise above that and still have things that are a positive message for attracting businesses and individuals to Schenectady. But it's beyond my control to babysit the individual members of the city council.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Madam President?
Thank you. When I first became president of the City Council, one thing that I did is I arranged a meeting with all council members who were interested. I knew that was important because things that had happened prior to the election and how our candidacy was contested on some levels. So I knew it was important as we moved forward that we would have to work as a collective body. So I asked each individual council member, could we sit down and meet? What would you like to see from the council, and how can we work together to move forward to make sure that the residents get the services that they need? In addition to that, I made a weekly visit, or if not twice a week, down to the mayor's office to say, what is it that we need to work on together? How can we work together to move the city forward? And having been a former council president and the mayor, I thought this was been a wonderful opportunity for us to work together, to create that bond, and to move forward. So people call it infighting, and there has been some challenges, but it's not without having made the effort to make sure that we still continue to move things forward on the city council.
Mr. Mayor, you have 30 seconds if you wish.
No.
You have 30 seconds to respond.
Yeah.
Thank you. So we move on to our next question. Paul Nelson, the Times-Union.
Good evening, Mayor McCarthy. Good evening, Council President Porterfield. My question to you is, what policies will you pursue to promote social and racial justice in the city?
And this question goes to Madam President first.
Well, first of all, I think part of it is that we have to work together to identify where those problems lie. And I think that we've done some of that, but there's much more of that to be done. And part of some of the social inequities and financial inequities are within earning power. We have a lot of opportunities here in terms of our development, et cetera, but how many people within our city are able to make money so they can have a sustainable living with that? So those are some of the ways that we can do these injustices. And additionally, working with our current developers, working with all of our various community organizations who do this work, to come together and to talk about it. We just had a very wonderful meeting with the Schenectady City School District, who brought a speaker in to talk about these things, and we should do more of that. People walked away with, I believe, an understanding of how we could work together, first and foremost, and also walked away with wanting more and more of that.
Thank you very much. Mr. Mayor?
Again, I believe that education is one of those great equalizers, and the institution that we're in tonight is a true community and regional resource in terms of providing opportunities for individuals. The leadership at this college is really second to none. And it's those partnerships that have paid off in Schenectady. We use the label working together works, whether it's at the county level, city level, business community, neighborhoods, partners like SUNY Schenectady, but it's to create an environment of opportunity where people feel that they have an equal access, they have resources that make a difference in their lives and make them to become full and contributing members of our community.
Thank you. Madam President, you have another 30 seconds if you wish. Mayor, Mr. Mayor, do you have anything else?
No.
And now we move on to Lucas Willard with a question.
Good evening to the candidates. What is the best way to improve public safety and reduce crime in the city?
And this goes to Mr. Mayor.
Again, since I've been mayor in the leadership of the police department, we have shifted dramatically to a data-driven policing where we collect information at a greater level. There's detailed analytics that are put in place so that we put police officers where they are needed, and hopefully in a manner that also creates a level of deterrence. That has produced substantial reduction in crime. Again, it's the nature of policing, where there's always things that are ongoing and evolutionary, but I'll match the performance of the Schenectady Police Department today against any department in the state. They are really the best trained, best equipped, best performing department in the history of this city. And it's an ongoing challenge to, again, continue to improve that. But it's data-driven, where we're trying to solve the problems where they are clearly identified and where the resources are needed.
Thank you, Mayor. Madam President, you have 60
I believe that
seconds.
part of public safety is communication between the community and the police, and that's a way to get things done. Building a relationship so that there's, if something happens, that the community is willing to talk to the police. It's wonderful to have data, and all of that is very important, but personal relationships go further than any of that. I, many years ago, was the coordinator for something called Schenectady Weed and Seed. And it was a coordinated effort through the federal government to weed out crime and seed in good things. And as part of that, I brought the National Crime Prevention Council here. And the first time, crime prevention through environmental design, CEPTED, which is something that the police department is using now, is one of the things that I introduced to this community. So using the data is important, but personal relationships between the police and those that are being policed is also extremely important.
Thank you. Mr. Mayor, you have 30 seconds.
It's odd that you would bring that up. You didn't do the paperwork following up on the funding request for that. We lost that funding, and if you actually do an analysis of it, crime went up during the period that Weed and Seed was under your direction.
Weed and Seed was under my direction, but I was never the police chief. So let me just also say, and in addition to that, part of that is when these kind of organizations are done in communities, they are understaffed. I was a staff of one, so there was no one else to do the job but me, but I was willing to take that on because I knew that it was something that would happen within our community. And understaffing is something that can make sure that no program, no city is successful. And currently, the city of Schenectady is understaffed.
Thank you very much. Okay, we're back to Emma Quinn for another question.
Potholes, lack of proper crosswalk infrastructure, and inadequate snow plowing in residential neighborhoods during the winter months. These are concerns residents have brought to our attention. What do you say to these residents, and how would you go about improving these infrastructural needs?
Madam President, 60
Yes,
seconds.
thank you. And as we all have heard, that potholes are a problem and something that we need to address. And part of that is making sure that, a couple of things, that we have adequate staffing in-house to make sure that we've gotten those things done. And I know that we outsource a lot of these things, but we can solve two problems at once. We can employ more people who are working within the city of Schenectady who are trained to do this work and to fill the potholes, and so there's a savings on that. So making sure that we do it, we're proactive in doing it and not reactive, and have a schedule and a time frame and a plan to fill the potholes as soon as the season is, that you can do it and not wait until we're deep into the season and then start it, so that they're not motorists are not experiencing that. In addition to that, we should seriously look at paving as many roads as possible so there aren't constantly potholes and we're not constantly patching.
Mr. Mayor, you have 60 seconds.
Again, we've put in place See, Click, Fix, which is a program to track and follow up on municipal problems, whether they happen to be potholes, whether they're code enforcement issues, whether there's policing. We encourage people, if you're not aware of that, to use that application. It allows us to better manage and timely address problems that are brought to our attention.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Madam President, you have 30 seconds for rebuttal.
Thank you. And yes, we're all aware of See Click Fix. And actually, a resident called me, and there was a problem, and I told them about See Click Fix. And their response was, I expect to be able to call my city and get the work done and not have to go to See Click Fix.
Mr. Mayor, you have 30 seconds if you wish.
It allows us to better manage it. Of course, there's going to be some people that don't take advantage of progress.
Andrew Waite.
In keeping with that, you've both touched on the importance of relationships within the community in different ways, and we see what voter turnout is for a school budget with a huge capital project. We see what voter turnout is for mayoral elections. How do you get more community members engaged?
Mr. Mayor, 60 seconds.
I believe it's a challenge that every day, and you find that if things are generally going good, people are less involved. They are more passive. If there are problems within a community, you get bigger turnout at meetings, you get greater activity within neighborhood associations. And so some of it is the progress that has happened within Schenectady, the development that's happened, the performance of the police department, other municipal services, that people are generally happy with what's going on in the community, and they can see the difference, they can feel the difference. Things are changing, and so that creates an element of passiveness that, again, is just the byproduct of society today.
Madam President, you have 60 seconds.
Oftentimes, people don't come out to vote because they think that their vote doesn't make a difference. So we as electeds have to make sure that we're doing things to let them know that their vote makes a difference and their voice makes a difference. And you do that by not just being on people's doorsteps during election time, but constantly going to neighborhood meetings, going to any event that you can to be engaged, and not just with voters, but also upcoming voters, and to make sure, whether it's visiting churches or other religious organizations, but staying engaged with the community so you're hearing the voice of the community consistently throughout your term of service, as opposed to waiting to a particular time.
Mr. Mayor, you have 30 seconds rebuttal.
Waive that.
Madam President, you have 30 seconds.
Okay.
We'll move on. Paul Nelson.
So I would like to piggyback on Lucas's question relative to public safety. The city started off fairly quiet in terms of violent crime, but last month, within the span of less than a week, there were 2 homicides. So my question is, what can the city do? What novel ideas can the city come up with to deal with crime beyond what's already taken place? And then sort of an addendum to that is, I hear a lot of complaints about these quality of life and nuisance type issues. So what can the city do to deal with the violent crime and also the quality of life issues that consistently come up?
Madam President, 60 seconds.
So in terms of the quality of life crimes, that is a place to start, because it's been proven that when a city looks a certain way, a municipality looks a certain way, and you don't take care of the small things, the larger things can happen. So yes, we working more on the quality of life issues would be extremely helpful, and engaging people to help with that. And in terms of crime, again, I will talk about the relationship between the police and crime. And a neighborhood or a community that has a relationship with the police is willing to tell them when things are going on, so that things maybe don't get to the point where we've had the unfortunate 2 incidents that we've had. A few years ago, there was a police commissioner, and I told him that what we should do is to have a group of citizens who meet with the police on a regular basis from various communities and talk about the things that are going there. That way, the police have insight to what's already going on, and when something happens, they have people that they can go and talk to about what's going on and talk about ways to solve those situations or even prevent them.
Thank you. Mr. Mayor, 60 seconds.
The 2 homicides that happened are under active investigation. Unfortunately, they are domestic related, and those are the hardest to predict and the hardest to prevent. Generally, Schenectady has seen a decline in violent crime, and we're basing some of that on the proactive engagement of the police officers through Schenectady Cares, other programs that we're doing. We have a hub in place with County Social Services, Mental Health Unit, Fire Department, the police that goes out and engages with some of the homeless areas that are high risk. And it's again opening up some of that dialogue with people that creates a level of deterrence so that we're displacing the negative things through engagement with the police, but also positive economic development and transformation that's happening within parts of the city.
Thank you. Madam President, you have 30 seconds.
Thank you. And I was aware of those two incidents were both domestics, and so I reached out to the YWCA, and as of yesterday, they had not been engaged regarding that. So it's important that the resources that we do have, that we engage and use them, again, and if it certainly could not have prevented this, but maybe help the family through what they're going through.
Thank you. Mr. Mayor, 30 seconds.
I yield my time.
Thank you. We move on to Lucas Willard.
Schenectady is home to one of the first retail cannabis dispensaries in the state. Would you support additional dispensaries and welcome new cannabis license holders?
This is to you, Mr. Mayor, 60 seconds.
Again, we have worked with the state in terms of opening up the facilities. Was not completely happy with the choice on Upper Union Street. We'd been hopeful that it would go to a couple other locations in the city of Schenectady, either in downtown or at Mohawk Harbor. There was not the level of engagement that I had hoped for with the operator, with the Office of Cannabis Management, with the police department and other city services in putting that in place. And as a result of that, it's created a little angst with some of the businesses on Upper Union Street. But it's the nature of the environment we live in where that is the first business, but there's going to be more of them. And hopefully that those will be ones that will draw some of the volume off that Upper Union Street store that is creating some of the short-term inconvenience. And yes, we welcome those at other locations to, again, shift what is today a largely illegal market into a legal market for consumption of marijuana.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Madam President, 60 seconds.
Thank you. When this came before the City Council as to whether we should opt in or wait, there was a vote that went before the council, and I thought that we should wait because once you opt in, you can't opt out. But you still would have an opportunity to opt in later. And the reason I want to wait is to make sure that we had zoning in place so that we could tell people once they wanted to open these exactly where in their city, in our city, they could and could not happen. So now we're at the place where there is a place that's open on Upper Union Street, and we are getting complaints because it's situated near a studio where children go and where families feel uncomfortable walking through is what the feedback that I'm getting. So had we waited and did our zoning first and then opted in, then we would be in a better place. But going forward, the City Council has to definitely look at the zoning for future locations to make sure that we're not interrupting people's quality of life or making them feel uncomfortable in any way. And since it's legal, I absolutely have no problem with us having more of these, but we want to zone properly.
Mr. Mayor, you have 30 seconds for rebuttal.
Zoning is the sole prerogative of the City Council.
Thank you. Madam President, you have 30 seconds.
And as I said, as Council President, I asked the council if we could wait and zone first, and we initially got it through, and then a council member changed their mind and said no. So that is why, so I'm acutely aware that zoning is the council's prerogative, which is why I brought it forward to do it in that way.
Thank you very much. Emma Quinn, we're back to you.
The Capital Region has seen an uptick in overdoses in recent weeks and months, including here in Schenectady County. How would you combat this issue? What isn't being done that needs to be addressed?
I couldn't hear that second part of your question.
The Capital Region has seen an uptick in overdoses in recent weeks and months, including here in Schenectady County. How would you combat the issue? What isn't being done that needs to be addressed?
Well, we have various organizations within our city that deal with people who have addictions. And so I believe that the city should work more closely with those organizations since we are experiencing these overdoses to see what we as a city could do, if they need more resources, if there's other ways that we can help impact the negative things that are happening here. And part of that is education. Addiction is a disease, and we understand that. However, we as a community also have a responsibility to those who are addicted to help them through this process. So work as a city, if we work with the organizations that are already taking care of this, if we can provide more resources, if we can help individuals who, if you know individuals in your family or other individuals, we can do this as a community to let people know when you see someone in crisis that there's help for them in referring them to the various organizations that we have here, because it's a problem that seems to be throughout the nation. However, working together as a community, using the resources that we currently have, providing more
Thank you very
resources
much.
if
Time is up.
necessary.
Thank you. Mr. Mayor?
Again, it's a tragic byproduct of the drug epidemic that still affects too many of our residents, not only in our city, but across the country. We've put in place Schenectady Cares, where individuals can come into the police station to ask for help. We'll divert them to an appropriate level of care. We have the hub that I talked about before, where Department of Social Services, the Fire Department, Police Department, mental health units are going out, engaging with people, trying to identify their individual needs, and provide a support network. And a lot of times it's just getting housing is the first step to getting them back to a level of stability, and so they can become constructive members of society. But we're doing that every day and trying to stay ahead of it. But it is, again, unfortunate where people make choices for drug use, and again, it's the quality of drugs on the street that
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
widely variant that
Time is
produce
up.
the tragic results.
Madam President, you have 30 seconds.
And having resources is important, as I said, but what we need to make sure is that people know that those resources exist. So we have to do a better job of letting people know that the resources that they need, or that their family member needs, that they exist. So that is part of what we as a community can do better.
Thank you very much. Mr. Mayor, 30 seconds.
I'd yield my time.
Thank you very much. Moving on to Andrew Wade again.
I guess I'm wondering, just generally, do you think Schenectady is on the right track? And if it is, what's the very next step to take? And if it's not, what's the first step you need to take to get it on the right track?
Mr. Mayor, the 60 seconds.
Yes, Schenectady is on the right track. We've cut taxes, crime is down, investment is at record levels. I'm proud of the record we have. It is a team that works together. And again, it's the city, it's the county, it's business community, it's neighborhoods that have produced the transformation in Schenectady that other communities are envious of. People look to Schenectady to see what we do in our fire department, what we do in the police department, our delivery of services, our data management under the broad topic of smart cities. But we're moving ahead, and again, we should be proud of that. I'm proud of the record.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. 60 seconds.
Thank you. Yes, Schenectady is on the right track, and we are moving forward. Can more be done? Absolutely, positively. As I said, in 2008, we had the former mayor had a comprehensive plan that took us through 2020. We have not had a comprehensive plan since then. And if we want to continue on the progress that we have, if we want to extend that progress into the neighborhoods and make sure that everyone benefits from all the development that's going on, from all the economic uplift that's going on, we have to have a plan that we can take a look at that has the input from the residents that said, this is what we need in our neighborhoods, and this is how to make that happen. We use that plan to measure, are we meeting that goal? Do we need to see something different? But progress is great, but a plan in place helps you to keep that progress going. In addition to that, when the next administration comes in, there's already a plan in place. They don't have to start from scratch. They can just look at the plan and use that.
Thank you very much. Time is up. Mr. Mayor,
The Unified Economic Development Team in Schenectady produces results every day. People who talk about a plan are trying to divert away from their own inaction, their own inability to articulate and drive business and drive investment within this community.
Thirty-second rebuttal.
Well, that's an interesting point because the mayor himself made use of that plan during part of his administration when that plan was in place. So, yes, we do have the economic team to help and to work, but regardless of the team, there still needs to be a plan. So I'm glad that he brought up the point about the economic team. He lets you know that that was not done by one individual. As a matter of fact, I was part of that team. I've been on the council for 11 years. So collectively, we've done this. But again, I
Thank you very much.
reiterate,
Time is up.
we
Thank
need a
you.
plan.
Thank you very much. Moving on to Paul Nelson.
So I can't take credit for this question, but we put out the call on Twitter sphere, and we got some excellent questions, and this is one I'd like to read. What is Schenectady's most undervalued asset, and how do you build on it?
Madam President, 60 seconds.
I can't say it's undervalued, but I think one of our major assets is Central Park. It attracts people from all over, and how do we build on that? Well, there's already a pool that's going in. But in addition to that, we have an opportunity, not only in Central Park, in all of our parks, to bring in recreation. We have a very diverse community now, and with that diverse community comes people who play all kinds of sports. Over the weekend, I went to a couple of cricket matches. There's soccer that people playing. There's all of these things. So our parks are our biggest asset, but what we want to make sure we do in our parks is make it so that people who play various sports, who are it's just not basketball or baseball, the American sport, but all the other sports that come from the diverse communities, that we build on that and make sure we use that assets so everyone feels welcome to all the assets that we have in the city of Schenectady.
Thank you very much. Mr. Mayor?
Schenectady's the most undervalued asset is water. We sit on the Great Flats Aquifer. As you look at issues that are facing the Southwest and California and other places, it's the things that attracted industry to the Northeast originally. Schenectady is positioned to do that in the next generation. We're now spending money upgrading the wellheads in the Great Flats Aquifer. We've done upgrades to the wastewater treatment plant. So the community is being positioned for solid economic growth for the next 50 years. And that value of water, I believe, will continue to attract people to Schenectady in ways that we haven't necessarily thought of in the past.
Madam Speaker, 30 seconds.
Well, water is very important. I think we can all agree. I'm not sure it's what most people think of when they think about moving someplace.
Thank you very much. Mr. Mayor? 30 seconds. Moving on, Lucas Willard.
General Electric just announced $50 million in investments in the Schenectady plant. What can the city do to help more young people train for jobs here?
Mr. Mayor, 60 seconds.
President Mono's in the front row. Send everybody down here to SUNY Schenectady. We have a great resource here, not only within this community college, colleges within the region, training programs here in terms of workforce development. It's a dynamic time. It's an exciting time. And so it's how do we make younger adults aware of these opportunities that are out there and then match them up with the emerging jobs that are coming, whether it's at GE or some of the smaller companies that are growing within Schenectady and the capital region.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. 60 seconds.
Thank you. I had the occasion to be at the Seat Center this morning where they had a press conference along with National Grid. And I'm sure that most of you know what the Seat Center is, social enterprise and training. And so this is a group of young people who are trained in the trades and also in culinary to do different things. So we have those things in place. And part of what the National Grid, which was called Project C, was workforce development, neighborhood investment, community engagement, environmental justice, justice, and social equity. So using organizations like the Seat Center to make sure that their young people are being trained, and then they're going to want to stay here to buy homes here. So those are the kind of things we can do in partnership with General Electric to make sure the programs that we already have are being utilized, and that we, as a city, are also funding them, which we have done with Seat Center.
Thank you. Mr. Mayor, you have 30 seconds if you wish.
I'd yield my time on that.
Madam President, thank you. Moving back to Emma Quinn with another question.
School shootings and swatting threats, we've seen a mix of school violence here in the Capital Region and some here in Schenectady. What needs to be done to ensure that our schools, our students, our faculty, parents, all parties involved are safe and can send their kids to school without having to worry? Or what plans do you have in place?
60
So
seconds.
the plans actually are within the school district. We, as the city, did put community engagement officers into the schools to help with that. So we do work with the schools in terms of programming, the things that they do. They just started doing communities in schools, which helps the community to be engaged, and then children have a safe place after school as well. So working together with the schools, with the parents, and really making sure that we engage the parents. And unfortunately, if we have to actually teach children what would happen if there was an active shooter in their school. And just to try to make children feel as safe as possible within the environment that they're in, so that if something should happen, they would know who to go to, where to go to, and also just really, if we see troubled children who something may happen, and I know it's not always children, that we try to engage and work on things like bullying, that sometimes is the cause of what happens in our schools.
Thank you very much. Mr. Mayor, 60 seconds.
Schools and churches used to be sanctuaries where you always felt safe and secure. It's unfortunate in society today, things have changed. Gun violence is all too prevalent. There's lack of willpower or the ability to drive a national agenda to put restrictions on gun ownership. In Schenectady, you hope it never happens, but we train for that on an ongoing basis. And it's the nature of those deployments that we don't articulate what the specific response is. But I will tell you that the Schenectady Police Department, the Fire Department, is well-equipped, well-trained, ready to deploy in very short notice to respond to one of those situations. And hopefully that in itself creates a level of deterrence so that people who are going to choose to make that poor choice to enter a school or a church or other facility are going to think twice before they do it in Schenectady, and hopefully think twice before they do it any place in the country.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Madam Speaker, 30 seconds.
Well, agreed, and as the Mayor said, churches and schools are places that children should feel safe. And again, I will reiterate that we as a community do what we need to do to make sure that our children are safe, whether that's through training, whether that's through putting officers in school, which I know there's some debate about whether or not we should do those kinds of things. But we have to make sure overall that our children are safe, because we send them to school to learn, and we expect that our children will come home at the end of the day. So putting systems in place to make sure that they're safe and they feel comfortable going to school every single day. And I don't agree that we do that necessarily with metal detectors, because I think that just increases their level of fright.
Time's up. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, 30 seconds.
Again, I'll just say that we train for that on an ongoing basis. We're prepared to respond and just hope that we never have to face the situation.
Thank you. Andrew Waite.
Well, thinking about schools, but also thinking about Lucas's question of training young workers, what needs to happen at Schenectady schools so that the younger people coming for jobs don't end up living in Niskayuna or sending their kids to a district outside of Schenectady? What needs to happen to Schenectady's district to get people to want to send their kids to city schools?
Mr. Mayor, 60 seconds.
One of the things that most people don't realize that there are kids from Niskayuna who pay tuition to go to Schenectady High School because of the IB program that is there. Schenectady has more board-certified teachers than any district in the state except New York City, which of course has more teachers than we have students. But there are clearly problems with a segment of the population where those kids are not being fully engaged or fully followed up on within the school district. The current superintendent in the district has gone through a couple of shifts in leadership. He's a remarkable individual. He's a driving force where he is changing the perception of that district and mapping out a plan that is going to, I believe, produce real results for the community as a whole in those kids that today may have fallen by the wayside and really not graduated or met their full potential.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Madam President.
I believe part of what we could do is, first of all, make sure we start educating children at the earliest level possible, early pre-K. And also to make sure that children are on track when they're graduating from school. And also, I know that our graduation rates was a concern. So working with the school district, working with the superintendent, working with the teachers to improve the graduation rate. And if it means that children need extra help, to put those kind of systems in place to make sure that we have tutoring programs in our school so that the graduation rate goes up and the people don't want to move out of Schenectady. They want to stay in this, they don't want to move out of Schenectady. They want to stay here. And in addition to that, also when they're finished with school, that there are job opportunities that will keep them here and allow them to make a living in order to be able to buy a house and be a contributing citizen. So those are the kinds of things we need to do in the school district, because as we look at it, we should look at it beyond them just being in school, but over their lifetime, what is going to happen? Will they stay residents in the city of Schenectady? I see a young man out there who...
Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Mayor, you have 30 seconds rebuttal.
Again, we have to view the school district as a full partner with the city, county government, business community to make sure that the skill set that is being taught to the kids is practical and allows them to become full and contributing members of society.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Madam President, 30 seconds.
Good.
Oh, you're good, sorry.
Yes.
Thank you. Moving on, Paul Nelson with the next question.
So in your capacity as mayor, obviously you're charged with making some very critical and important decisions, when it comes to leadership. So my question to you is, I would like for each of you to share an example of when you showed leadership in either taking a controversial position or bringing people together to find a solution to a controversial solution.
60 seconds, Madam President.
It's me first. So controversial, the first thing I can think of is the participatory budgeting process we had for ARPA. That was extremely controversial. But for me, it was important to make sure that the residents had a voice in how we were able to spend this money, so we could see a broader picture of it as opposed to the staff at the City Hall, which, as I said before, we are understaffed. So that was a very challenging time in terms of how we should spend the money and having people come to agreement. Now, not everyone agreed on on the allocations we made, but we were able to come to enough of an agreement and have enough council members agree with it to be able to spend the money, and very importantly, spend the money in some programs that don't normally get funded, but do things for the community, such as the Seat Center, as I spoke about it earlier, and all the things they do for the community. So we were able to use that process to fund those things, and so that some people, we funded obviously city projects and also some community projects. So it was challenging, but working together so that everyone walked away feeling that some of what they wanted they got is how it worked out.
Thank you very much. Mr. Mayor, 60 seconds.
My first months as mayor had to deal with Irene and Lee, where the city was shut down. The governor closed all the bridges. People were backed up here. We're running an emergency operations center. Traffic is backing up, and there's a little bit of debate in the room what we're going to do. And I said, I need some signs printed up. And traffic's backing up everywhere, and they're calling off. They said, well, what do you want the signs to say? I said, if you lived in Schenectady, you'd be home now, to have them put that up. But that broke the tension. And again, the police, fire department, everybody came together. We managed the inconvenience of the traffic back up there. We went through the damage that was done as a result of those storms. And again, it shows not only the city staff, but the community stepping forward to meet the challenge. And that happens every day in small ways, whether it's in the police department, the fire department,
Thank you, Mr.
the Bureau
Mayor.
of Service.
Madam President, 30 seconds.
So I can give you another example. When I first came onto the council, there was we were having a committee meeting, and it was about different different committees that we may be getting rid of. And one of them was the Affirmative Action Committee. And I raised my hand, being a new council member, said, we cannot do that. We definitely need that. And today, the Affirmative Action Office is doing a lot of work, helping MWBEs to get their job done and helping to get them trained. So it's, putting your hand up and saying, hey,
Thank you very much.
I disagree with what's being done here, and can we do this
Time's up.
differently?
Thank you. Mr. Mayor, 30 seconds.
Just going back to the allocation of the ARPA money, we did some outreach. The council put together a group of individuals to rate the programs, projects. That was largely discounted by the council, and they made the decisions largely behind closed doors and without input from the groups that they had chosen or the professional city staff.
Lucas Willard.
How do you plan to reduce property taxes even in a time of economic uncertainty?
Mr. Mayor, 60 seconds.
Right now, I wouldn't classify economic uncertainty. We seem to have some stability, even though that there's shifts at the national level. We have done business development here. Look at Mohawk Harbor, other entities that are contributing to the tax base and reducing our crime, reducing our cost. Going forward, there's still an element of citizens who don't pay their taxes, don't pay it on time. That at one time could have said if everybody just paid their taxes, we would be able to do it across the board 10% tax cut. We're seeing a larger number of people pay their taxes, but there's still that segment of property owners that drive our costs because they don't maintain the property, they don't pay the taxes, and other ones. And so that's something that we continue to focus on, and it's an area by doing those improvements that will allow fiscal stability to benefit the rest of the taxpayers and the community as a whole.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Madam President, 60 seconds.
Absolutely. One of the ways also to do that is to use our city resources and not outsource some of the work that we do. We outsource a lot of work in terms of plowing of the streets. So if we train our city staff and then have them use in-house services, we can save money on that, and that should help to at least keep the taxes even, so that we're not spending more money out, and then that in turn turns into a tax increase for residents. Using in-house has proven to be the best way possible. The mayor spoke about it a while ago, about how there was something else that he had brought in-house. So if that's the program that works, then that's a program that we should continue to do, to making sure that streets get plowed and that our code enforcement is done, and all those things are done in-house, and we're not putting them out, we're not outsourcing, so that we're not spending money on outside contractors to get that kind of work done.
Thank you very much. Mr. Mayor, 30 seconds.
Again, you have to look at the individual services. When I came in, I brought the operation of the wastewater treatment plant back in-house. We save money. It's an operation that I'll match against, again, any facility in the state. Snow plowing, some of the other operations of the Bureau of Service. If you go back 20 years ago, there was twice the staff there. If you double that staff today, again, there's a significant impact in terms of the bottom line that we have to generate from tax revenue.
Thank you, Mr.
Without
Mayor. Madam President.
Absolutely, that was the bottom line. However, if we employ people within the city, then those people can also pay taxes, can also be homeowners, and continue to support our tax base. And yes, as the mayor said, we are understaffed. There's a lot less staff than there used to be. We are very understaffed in the city, but we need to look at fully staffing our city services so that we can provide the services that the taxpayers are paying for.
So we have time for one more question from the panel. Emma Quinn.
If elected or re-elected, what would the first 100 days in office look like?
Madam President, 60 seconds.
Well, the first days of my office would look like sitting down with all of the city staff and just assessing where we are, what's going well, and what do we need to do differently. Currently, department heads are not meeting on a regular basis, so we need to have that intercommunication within the city staff to make sure that this department knows what the other department is doing, and so that if there's any overlap, we can make sure that we all understand what everyone else is doing, and if there's a gap, we can make sure that we're filling the gap. As the council president, currently, whenever every Thursday, we meet to put together the legislative agenda. We weren't not going in person before. Now we are going in person. In today's meeting, there was someone as they were leaving said, "It's important. I learned a lot of things today that I didn't know." So meeting with the entire staff to assess where we are and how we need to move forward, which again is a part of planning.
Thank you very much. Mr. Mayor.
I'd like the opportunity to continue as mayor. Working together works. It's a label that we use. It produces results. Whether it's city staff working with county government, school district, business community, neighborhoods, want to be able to continue to produce results and see significant progress for this community.
Thank you very much. 30 seconds.
Well, we've consistently heard that working together works, but working with the council is really another thing that where working together works would have worked if we had been working together. So again, as when I become mayor, I will make sure that I will work with the council so that together we move forward. We're a team. We're not a team of one.
Mr. Mayor, 30 seconds.
Match my performance in the city and the dysfunctional nature of the city council. There's a clear contrast there, and I believe I should be given the opportunity to continue to serve as mayor.
Thank you very much. So now we've reached the point where both the candidates will have 90 seconds to make their closing statements. And based on the earlier coin toss, Mayor McCarthy, you are first.
It's been an honor to serve as mayor of Schenectady for the past 12 years, but elections have consequences. Schenectady residents remember clearly the days of dysfunctional city government, of high taxes, high crime, and decay. I'm proud to have been mayor of a city that was once down, but today is a city on the rise again. A good example to point out within the last 2 weeks was GE's announcement that it'll add 160 new green jobs in Schenectady and a $50 million investment. So I'm asking the voters to stay the course of progress, to stay the course that has brought us 6 tax cuts, millions in new revenue, revitalized housing, investment in our parks, downtown, in every neighborhood. Schenectady's renaissance did not happen by luck. It happened through leadership and competence and hard work in the mayor's office and with our partners at every level of government. I'm asking for your vote on June 27th and a chance to stay the course of progress and to continue to serve as your mayor.
Madam President.
First of all, thank you all for coming this evening. So under a Porterfield administration, there will be a plan to develop all of the city, listening to all of residents, working together with the staff of the city, increasing the staff within the city to make sure that we are fully staffed to be able to do the job that we're called to do, to work with the school district, to make sure that our children are being educated, and in addition that our children are be able to go into the trades and make a living and become homeowners in the city. I will implement succession planning within our city. We cannot have institutional knowledge walking out the door and nothing to replace it. I will also have a communications department, so when people call, they have a person that picks up the phone, answers them, and someone gets back to them, so they're not wondering whatever happened to their call. The mayor said in 2015 that he believed in term limits. He's been there 12 years. That's 3 terms, which is 1 more than the president gets. So at this time, I'm just saying, if you believe in term limits, I believe the time is now. So I am asking you for your support as mayor for the city of Schenectady to help continue moving Schenectady forward and to be inclusive and include the voice of all the residents of the city of Schenectady to make sure that neighborhoods are included in our progress and the progress just does not stay in one part of the city. Thank you very much.
Thank you to both of the candidates, and thanks again to SUNY Schenectady for giving us this great venue, and thank you also to the panelists. Good night.